Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהכל נהיה בדברו. The Bible, the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, starts with the book of Bereshit, Genesis. And what is the first thing we are told? We are told that God created the world in 6 days and he rested on the 7th day. Each day we are told what is it that God created. And it follows a certain order. Now one can ask oneself, is the Bible a book of science? Is it astronomy that the Bible is trying to teach us? I don't think so. I think that the Bible is basically a book of norms, of ethics, of how we have to behave ourselves in this world, what we should do in this world. It is not descriptive of nature, really. It speaks about nature because it has a certain moral intention. It wants to teach us something, not because it is a book of geography. It is not that. It's not a book of astronomy either. So the Bible tells us the following, that in the beginning God created light, separated the light from darkness. God eventually created the sun, the moon, and the stars. God created vegetation. On the 6th day of creation, and you see how each day there is a step ahead, step forward. On the 6th day, he created the mammals, animals that reproduce in a certain way similar to man, and he also created man on the same day. There is no question that from our perspective, the entire story of creation is to tell you that God created man. Man is supposedly the apex. It is the most important creation of God in this world. It's a matter of fact, it's the only being with whom God can play chess because he gave him free will. He can choose whatever he wants to do. While a tree grows because it has to grow. And if it doesn't grow, it's because it doesn't receive any water, it doesn't receive any sustenance. There are no rays of the sun that keep it warm. But in the case of man, it is altogether different. In other words, they have a will of their own. They can decide to do certain things or not to do certain things. So my question is, why did God create animals like a cow, like a horse, on the same day that God created man? God should have created everything else, and on the 6th day, the only thing he should have created is man in order to show that man is altogether different. I don't know. But yet, let me guess. Maybe the Bible is trying to teach us that man can become an animal also. Maybe the Bible is trying to teach us that man is everything in the future. He can develop. He has to choose a path for himself. He has free will. So it depends what you do with the free will. If you go on the right path, you will bring a betterment for society. On the other hand, you can bring destruction. And we know that destruction is much more efficient than construction. To build something takes much longer than to destroy something. So man potentially is really an animal also. And this is shown. You know, we share our ADN, our DNA, excuse me, our DNA with animals. There's very little difference between the DNA of men and animals. How do we procreate? In a very similar way. We give birth in a similar way. There are many things that are the same for us. A horse needs oxygen in order to live. We need oxygen in order to live. They need food. We need food too. We do our necessities. They do their necessities too. We are very similar in many ways. But yet a tiger can destroy animals, can go after weaker animals, and man, deep down, has to choose. Am I going to be like a lion that devours its prey? Or am I going to be like a human being that brings about a betterment for society? In other words, that God created man at the same time as he created the beasts in this world is to teach us that you have a beast inside of you too. But it depends what you're going to choose. So therefore, don't just vegetate. Don't just spend your time and see how things happen. It depends upon you. You have free will. You have to choose the right path. Because if you don't choose the right path, the animalistic tendencies in you are going to take over. So it depends very much upon you. If you're going to be a decent human being, or you're going to be a terrible human being that brings about destruction to society.